Tonight, you're gonna slice a tomato. It'll be smooth, perfectly round, a deep, flawless red, and you won't think twice about it. But that tomato is lying to you because it looks riper, redder, and healthier than any tomato your grandmother ever held. And inside, it carries a fraction of the nutrition hers did, not a little less. By some estimates, you would have to eat 4, 5, even 8 of them to get what a single piece of her produce once gave her body. The food didn't just change, it was quietly emptied out, and almost no one told you. So why does your grandmother's tomato beat the one on your counter? The answer changes everything you think you know about your food, your farmers, and your own body. Let's start with the vanishing, because before we talk about the tomato, you need to see how big this actually is. In 2004, a biochemist named Donald Davis at the University of Texas at Austin did something almost no one had bothered to do. He went back to the government's own records. The United States Department of Agriculture has been measuring what's inside our food for decades. So Davis pulled the numbers from 1950 and he pulled the numbers from 1999 and he laid them side by side. 43 garden crops, 50 years apart. What he found was not subtle. Across those foods, 6 nutrients had measurably fallen: protein, calcium, phosphorus, iron, vitamin C, and riboflavin, which had dropped by 38%. The same vegetables, the same species, just half a century apart, and they were emptier. Now here's the part that matters. Davis didn't blame the soil or pollution or bad luck. He pointed at something we did on purpose. For 50 years, we bred our crops for one thing above all else: size, speed, yield, more tomatoes, faster, bigger, cheaper, and nature charged us a hidden tax for it. Scientists call it the dilution effect. When you force a plant to grow bigger and faster, it fills that extra size with water and carbohydrate. The vitamins and the minerals don't scale up with it. They get spread thinner, stretched across a bigger fruit. So a modern tomato is larger, heavier, and more beautiful than its ancestor, and per bite, it is diluted. This wasn't decay, this was design. But it wasn't just about size. There was something else happening inside the tomato specifically, something we didn't even understand until 2012. Here's a question: why is your supermarket tomato so evenly, uniformly red? No green shoulders near the stem, no pale patches, just flawless color top to bottom. You've been trained to see that as ripe, as good. It's actually the mark of the wound. In 2012, a plant scientist named Powell at the University of California, Davis, published a study in the journal Science that solved a mystery growers had lived with for almost a century. Decades ago, breeders noticed a mutation, a tomato that ripened to a perfectly even red, all at once with no dark green top. It made harvesting easier and shipping prettier, so they bred it into nearly every commercial tomato on Earth. They had no idea what they were switching off. Powell's team found that the same mutation that erases those green shoulders also disables a gene called GLK2. And GLK2 is what builds the tiny engines inside the fruit, the chloroplasts, that produce the tomato sugar and its lycopene, the very things that make it taste like a tomato and carry its nutrition. So for 60 years, every time we chose the prettier fruit, we were unknowingly breeding out the machinery that made it good. We turned off the factory to fix the paint job. The scientists called it, in the flattest possible language, an unintended consequence. You didn't lose the flavor by accident. You traded it for a color. But breeding is a choice. We could reverse a choice. What's coming next, you cannot vote on. Because the third force emptying your food isn't in the seed or the soil. It's in the air. In the late 1990s, a mathematician named Irakli Loladze noticed something that would haunt him for 20 years. In a biology lab, he watched algae grown under bright light. The algae exploded with growth. There was more of it than ever, and the tiny animals that ate it were starving to death. More food, less nourishment, and it made no sense to him until he understood what the light was really doing. It was pumping the algae full of sugar and leaving everything else behind. And Loladze realized something that should stop you cold. The whole planet is running that exact experiment right now because the one thing every plant on Earth is getting more of every single year is carbon dioxide. And plants turn carbon dioxide into carbohydrate. In 2002, Loladze published his warning: more carbon in the air means plants everywhere are packing in more sugar and starch and diluting the iron, the zinc, and the protein we need to survive. Not one crop, not one farm, every leaf, every grain, every fruit, quietly getting sweeter and emptier at the same time. He called it hidden hunger. You can eat until you're full, eat more than any humans in history, and still, cell by cell, come up short, fed and undernourished at the very same time. We didn't just breed the nutrition out of one tomato, we are thinning it out of the entire plant kingdom. So think about what you've actually been told your whole life. Eat your vegetables, fill half your plate with produce, eat the rainbow, all of it good advice built on a quiet assumption that a carrot is a carrot, that a tomato today is the same tomato your grandmother pulled off the vine. But what if it isn't? What if the food itself has been slowly hollowed out beneath you? While the label stayed the same, we keep eating more to feel well and wondering why we don't. We call it willpower, we call it discipline. But what if it was never only about how much you eat and always, partly, about what's no longer inside it? For 50 years, we chased bigger harvests and thinned out the minerals in nearly everything we grow. We chased a flawless red and switched off the gene that made the tomato worth eating. And now the very air is finishing the job, sweetening and emptying every plant on the planet at once. So tonight, when you slice that tomato, look at it a little longer. Smooth, round, a deep, flawless red. The most beautiful tomato in human history, and quietly one of the emptiest. Your grandmother's tomato was uglier, smaller, streaked with green, and it fed her better than yours will ever feed you, and most of us never even knew it was gone.